Hi, you're with Julian on the Brown Notes and a review of the new album by Jim Legxacy, Black British Music. Now, this is kind of a barometer of why we're in the worst era, I think, for music criticism ever. Because anything that comes out that ticks enough boxes gets critical acclaim, whether the music's good or not. And I have to say, I have been less than impressed with this ridiculously high scoring album, which has got like 90% on Metacritic, one of the highest averages of any album this year for absolutely no reason. So I'll get this name wrong. James Folorenzo Ifeanyi Alaoye, aka Jim Legxacy, spelt rather nicely with an X, as in Legxacy, from Lewisham in London, which is a couple of miles from where I'm from, East Ham. It's, I think, his first proper album. He's done a couple of mixtapes. Now, it says it's the fourth mixtape, but I think most critics are handling it as an album. It kind of kicks off with this. It's a very wide-ranging, well, it's a semi-wide-ranging template of music which doesn't always get put together, but mixing lo-fi indie, rap music, soul music, R&B music, and, you know, the kind of abstraction that people like Frank Ocean and Bon Iver aim for, but not in a manner that's as good. For me, it kicks off with a lot of the tracks on here are around the 2-minute mark, and they don't really develop. So we just get a sort of Imogen Heap style, sort of fragmented spoken word intro. And not for the last time on the album, we get something that really reminds me of Kanye West around My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy era. Sort of vaguely militaristic drum tattoos and chipmunk soul samples, which does tend to happen on quite a lot of the tracks on the album. Is my microphone in the right place? That's a bit better. So it's a decent beat, but it is a bit cringe, and cringe does come up on this album quite a lot. Again, same sort of Kanye vibe on the track 3, like the album title, Black British Music. Some of the titles of the tracks are good, but the songs in no way live up to that. So we get a track called New David Bowie, which has got about 10 writers on it. So I don't know if that's from the sample or what, but pretty vacuous lyrics as well. And another one that doesn't develop. It's like 2 minutes, 14 seconds. The fourth track, Sun. It's like this soft focus sort of Justin Bieber, you know, these are like minimalist style modern pop songs, which are like, imagine Justin Bieber on it cooing and doing R&B vocals, and there's just like a flamenco guitar and a very rudimentary beat. I get that vibe a lot on this, and I'm not a big fan of that. It's very bland music. The standout, and it's the only standout so far, is 06 Wayne Rooney. Another track which throws up interesting titles that don't quite marry up with the song, but it's a much better track. And this one's really in like rolling indie pop from around 2006. Like the kind of music that Santa Gold used to make, which was blurring the lines of indie and R&B and soul. And the first real chorus of any track on the song. There's a couple of mournful My Dad's Gone stuff. I found the vocal inflections on tracks which were about his family and missing dad and stuff like that to be very performative, by which I mean that it was more like he was in a theatre production than being, you know, honest. And there's no real emotion really in the song, so we get that in Issues of Trust and Father, track 7. Another big problem of this album is the samples. On the recent Clips album there was this, I'm just waving so I'm in focus, on the recent Clips album there was this worry that this that's culturally inappropriate, or whatever it was, the sample would be too much. There's too many samples on this album of vocal snippets that are really cringe-inducing. This is black British music. And then the, damn, son. And you're like, no, don't do that. It's got a good beat and sub-bass on it. And one of the few lyrics that cuts through. On the block I was listening to Mitski. I thought was quite nice. And by track 8, DBAB, it's really unclear what this black British music is. For me, if it was to be, you know, on the cusp of current black British music, it would be something like Heady One, or UK Drill has just gone global, and post sort of road rap and grime. And the kind of music that a band like Salt were making, or Lil Sim. I haven't got her last album. But this really feels like an R&B version of Justin Bieber. I don't know where the black British music is actually here. I thought that track was alright because of the synths. They're actually quite loud, but a few of the tracks here have got very messy production. Like track 9 is awful. Big Time Forward just sounds like it's been, like, the fast forward button is down. And they're the same elements throughout the whole album as well. So any diversity in the sound stage of the album doesn't really come across, because other than that Wayne Rooney track, most of it sits in a similar pocket. And it sits in a similar pocket sonically, but also emotionally, lyrically, and everything else. He just flips between singing and rapping. Again, SOS is just messy. Repetitive vocal delivery by this stage, and sort of mainstream R&B, very modern mainstream R&B, but still very middle of the road music. I feel like this is the daytime TV of black British music. And he swears all over one track. I just banged a snooze in Canada water, which is probably the best. The titles are far better than the album. And he swears all over that track, but it's like watching the Teletubbies start swearing. And it's just like rolling your eyes. And Dexter's Phone Call with Dexter in the Newsagent, another decent title. But it's got this really cloying choir on it that makes it almost unlistenable. It reminded me more of music by Drake, or the other one that came out was the British rapper Dave, who also got universal acclaim, and I might have even given good reviews to his previous 2 albums, but it's like the film that comes out just before the Oscars, and everyone thinks it's great, and then a month after the Oscars they're going, that was rubbish, like American Beauty or something, or 1917, or anything that Sam Mendes does. So overall I found this to be a very unpleasant experience. The guy's got talent, he can rap and he can sing and he can produce, and he's only 22 years old, but like the level of critical acclaim given to this album is so beyond the quality of the music on it that it's clear that music critics today are the most terrified little lambs going, because if anything to do with race or sexuality or gender is involved in the music, they automatically give it a great review. And I found this actually quite challenging to listen to. It's very mainstream, it's very Justin Bieber, it's very sort of like the Dave albums, just after the fact, they were just too performative. It's almost like you got someone at an open mic night with a guitar that is just trying way too hard to be cool. So I did not like the Jim Legxacy album. And I didn't think the concept of black British music, which was an easy one to slam dunk, especially if you got his production chops, it just felt like American mainstream R&B most of the time. And any little toe dips into like indie and folk and stuff like that are so tepid. So I'm going to give Jim Legxacy black British music a whopping 3 out of 10.